What's up guys, it's the Cheapster here, and as the holiday season is on us, I just want to answer a question that some people might be having, and that is, how much do you spend on people for Christmas? So this is a hard question to answer because everyone's got different situations and stuff, on what they can spend and what they can't spend. So it's kind of a difficult question to ask because some people might think spending a certain amount is way too cheap, when some people might actually think that's too expensive. So it really just depends on where you're going to be. Starting out, that's going to be what I'm going to start off by saying is that there is no set amount for everybody. It's not like you can say this is the flat amount and everyone is going to spend that. It's just going to depend on your situation, and it depends on kind of where you are at with your money. I think it should depend less on what other people are going to spend on you. I think that kind of comes into consideration, but more it's just going to depend on what can you afford to spend, because it's really, the money's coming from you. So if you can't afford to spend that, then you shouldn't afford to spend more than you can. You shouldn't feel pressured by people spending more. If they think that you're being kind of rude by not spending the amount, I guess you could have a conversation with that person and just say that's where you are and you don't want them to spend that much on you because you're only going to be able to spend this much. If you feel like that's something you need to do, then maybe that's something you need to do. But you just shouldn't feel pressured about spending more money than you can afford. It really should just be what you think you can afford. Because, I mean, some people are buying for 20, 30 people at Christmas, maybe even more, who knows. But that can get very expensive, just even small amounts. I mean, $5 a person, which I think is very small, that's already $100 if you're buying for 20 people. So that can just get a lot if you're buying for a lot of people. So you just shouldn't really feel pressured by people to spend more than what you think you can afford. But you don't want to be too cheap. So that's kind of where you have to find the balance between can you afford it and what kind of things are you being a little too cheap and not wanting to spend on other people, because you do want to be able to give gifts and stuff and enjoy the Christmas season of giving. I think that's a big part of the Christmas season, is being able to get into the giving spirit with people, so you should be able to do that. So, you obviously don't want to be the Scrooge of the year, somebody who just doesn't want to give to people. So try to not be, too cheap. Try to know where your boundary is between being too cheap and then spending too much, and then try to find a middle ground there. Because when it comes down to it, Christmas just really isn't about the gifts. It is kind of about the giving aspect for yourself, but it's not about the gifts. It's not even about the people receiving gifts from you. That's not what Christmas is about. And we all know that Christmas is about much more than that. So just don't focus too much on that stuff. If it's going to cause problems, then that's just really missing the point of what Christmas is about. So you don't want to get into that point where you're missing the Christmas season and it just becomes a stressful thing because you're so worried about what to spend and stuff. So another thing too is you can think outside the box. You don't have to just buy stuff. It doesn't have to be, hey, I'm going to spend $25 for you on Amazon.com. Maybe it's, well, you're good at sewing or knitting or who knows what it is. So you could make something for somebody, and you could, this could sound like a cheap thing, but if you were really good at something, maybe you were good at, like, let's say glass etching or something, and somebody who would really like to have like a beer mug that has like their name etched on it, or like a logo or something, that's something you could do, and it might not cost you much money, but to them that could be like, a $20, $25 glass that they would have to go buy. So you get to not spend as much. They feel like they still got the gift that was expensive. So that's a way that you can kind of work it out to make it better. But you can also do things like giving people your time. So that could be just, maybe somebody needs like a handyman, and maybe you're handy and you can give your time. Or maybe somebody needs a babysitter, or worked on their car and you know how to do that. There's just a million different things. You could clean people's houses, or just, you gotta think outside the box. Think about the people that you're buying for and think what could be good for them. And maybe you have some of those skills that that's where you could really make some money, because maybe it would cost somebody $100 to get a handyman to fix this small thing that you know how to do in maybe an hour or so. And you can just do that for them. So you save them $100. They feel like they got a huge gift from you, and you didn't even really have to spend anything, or you spend just a little bit. So that can be something you can really do to help you save money. Really think about that. That can help a lot. And then also you could buy used gifts. So that could be, maybe you find stuff at Goodwill. I know this sounds kind of cheap, but it doesn't have to be, because sometimes there can be really good stuff at Goodwill or at thrift stores, or used movies, or whatever it is. There's lots of stuff out there that you can get used that most of the time people are not really going to care, especially something like a movie. As long as the disc works and it plays the movie, who cares if it's brand new or if it's a used disc? It really doesn't matter. Video games can be the same way. So there's just lots of things you can think outside the box. Try to find ways to do it cheaper. Use eBay. eBay is a great way around Christmas time to save money, because you can just find those things cheaper. Of course, there are some things you probably don't want to buy used. You kind of want to use discretion when you're buying for other people, because some things might be kind of weird if you buy them used. They might have damage, or you just want to make sure it doesn't look too cheap. But if something can be used and you know that person's not going to care, look into that, because that's going to only save you money, and that could help you kind of maybe even get them more than what you could have before because you bought it used, and make them more happy while you don't have to spend as much on that. So that's something you can do, just kind of thinking outside the box. But really what counts more at Christmas is just the thought instead of just what the actual gift is. And it's a little bit of like a overused saying, the thought's what counts. But it is really true, because if you are thinking more about that person and what they would enjoy, maybe a cheaper item is actually more what they would enjoy. So sometimes thinking more about that person to figure out what they would really like, it might be more enjoyable to them to get an item that they really like for cheaper than if you had tried to just meet this more expensive limit and got something that maybe they really didn't even like as much. So really just spend the time thinking about people and what they would like. And I think in the end, if you do that and you really try to figure out what people are going to like, you don't even need to spend as much money a lot of times, because you'll find things that are just kind of a good fit for them at a better price. But I also do want to drive home the point that Christmas, you should give generously. And I don't necessarily mean giving to your friends and family so generously. You should, but that might not be what matters as much. I know a lot of people, your friends and family, might not really be in need. They may just be people that you're trying to show that you care to them, to get them a gift. And that's really not as much where it matters if they're not people who need it. Some cases that might be the case where you actually have friends and family who need things, and that's where you can help meet that for them. But really what Christmas you should be doing is trying to find ways to give generously to charities or something that really can help people in need. So maybe focusing more on, instead of spending as much on the people who don't need it in your life, still thinking about them and giving them gifts if that's what you want to do, but also trying to figure out how you can spend money in a better way to the people who actually are going to need it for Christmas. That's just my thoughts on it. I think it's kind of a better way to use your money, and a better way to kind of truly live out what the Christmas spirit is supposed to be about, which is giving to those who need it. And kind of like the old Christmas Carol's tale. It's not about being Scrooge with your money, but it's also not about just giving out money to people who don't really need it that much. I mean, sometimes I think Christmas has become a little bit like that, where it's just giving gifts to people who are your friends and family, and that can kind of become just what it's all about. But yeah, sometimes that's not really what the big thing is. Sometimes you really should try to find those other ways to give to the people who need it, and that might not be in your circle of friends and family. And then the biggest thing I want to leave off here is the biggest thing you should do around Christmas time, and you should start this before Christmas time. So we're already pretty much here, but for next year, think about this more, and that is to set a budget and try to save money ahead of time. Because it's always going to be harder to stick to spending the right amount or stick to a budget if you don't have the budget. Obviously, it's going to be hard to stick to it, but it's trying to save your money ahead of time. It's going to help you maybe not be so tight on money with people, so that you really can give people more gifts or give to these charities, or whatever it is. But just thinking about that earlier in the year instead of waiting till it's December, because the 25th of December comes very quick once you get into December. So that's not the time to be saving and trying to budget it. So trying to budget and save before it, I think that's the best thing you can do. So it doesn't even have to be all year. Maybe you just start saving in October or November or something, or just putting a little money aside before you get to that. So it's not a stressful time to figure out how much money do you have and can you afford spending on people or these charities or things like that. So that would be my biggest advice here. And my other advice here would be to do the cheapest thing you can today, and that is to tap the like button. And also subscribe to my channel. I do 2 videos every week. One is like this, where I just sit down and talk to you guys about something. And I do another video that's a little bit more editing intensive, just has a little bit more meat to the video. But yeah, check those out. Check out my channel. And thank you guys for watching the video. And remember, stay cheap.
That's cheap.